I'm just fitting the driver's side rear guard. The problems I've found so far are a bit of damage on the bottom. It's folded. I'll have to straighten that out. And on the back here it's all bent out of shape, so I've really got to panel beat this down and shrink a bit where the metal's stretched. It's not quite fitting in the curve here properly, so particularly around about here, so I may have to reshape this section here to get an even gap. The fitting between the guard and the body is taken up somewhat by this moulding, but I need to make sure it's fairly even before I fit that. On the inner side there's a stone guard. I've replaced the captive nuts in there because they were the bolts were frozen in the nuts and they've actually been cut off to remove from the car. So I don't know really how this is all going to fit together, but I'll start assembling it. All these pieces of course were off the car when I got it, so hopefully when I do a bit of panel repair this will all fit back on nicely. This is the passenger side rear guard that I've just repaired. I've actually had to cut a section out and put new metal in there. That was rusted through, but apart from that the guard was fairly straight, and I was able to fit it quite well. The only other minor problem was a little hiccup in the bottom here where didn't quite line up with the new panel that I've welded in on the corner. I'm about to see if I can fit the rear bumper bar. This is it. It wasn't on the car when I got it. The condition is not too bad from what I've seen. I've noticed that there is a bit of a knock in here. And I'll see if I can tap that out. The problem I've got in fitting it is that with the rear end of the car I've actually rebuilt all of the bottom section, and I actually have to modify it slightly where the mounting points come under. So these mounting points here, they go under that rear section, so I might actually have to do a little bit of fettling to make sure there's clearance. So I'm about to see if I can fit that and make sure everything lines up properly. The tyre door, just coming around to the back here, I've finished filling in the gaps, making sure they're even all the way around. So there was a lot of work to add metal along here and around there, and similarly on this side I had to add metal along the top here and a little bit of reshaping around the bottom. The tyre door fits in fine. I've put in the insert here which holds the number plate. Once again it had some accident damage here. I've panel beated that out to make it a lot straighter. I've put the original registration plate on. this is I found a couple of plates in a box of assorted parts, so I'm assuming these were the plates that came with the car. In fact, the front number plate appears to be on the original mounting for this car, so although I've got no proof, I'd say this was the original registration back in 1974 when it was last registered. The rear bumper bar, I've put that back on. There was accident damage down in here. I've panel beated that out, and it's taken a little bit of adjustment to get the right positioning, or what I think is the right positioning of the guard. I've made an alignment along the side of the car here to pinpoint where this the bumper bar needs to be in relation to the width of the car. So it appears to be now to be fitting correctly after a lot of work. The driver's side rear guard, I had to panel beat out the bottom. It was bent upwards, so that's been panel beated out. Once again reshaped down in the corner here where I've put the new panel on the back, and a fair bit of reshaping around the front end here where the gap was just a little bit too wide. Even though it has a filler that goes in there, I wanted to make sure it was fairly even, so I've done that. The bottom end here, I've actually had to pull this out further. It was pushed in. So all in all, the rear of the car now, the two rear guards, the boot, the tyre door, the bumper bar appear to fit correctly after a lot of adjustment. So no more work to do there until I'm ready to pull it apart and prepare for paint. I've been working on the tyre door sealing problem here. This is a 1949 body and it didn't have any form of sealing on the bottom, just under the tyre door here. In fact, what the tyre door will close and just butt up with that with a little bit of a gap, so any water that came in would run down the door and then into the inside of the boot and then eventually down the drain holes. In a later model vehicle I've got out as a spare car, I think it's a 1950 model, it actually had a piece of metal with brackets on it mounted just inside, and I assume it had a rubber seal similar to that on it. And what that does is when the tyre door comes up and in like that, it actually pushes the seal against the plate behind it and provides a little bit more of a weather seal, maybe not perfect, but certainly better than it was originally. So that should provide a little bit better sealing around the door. It's a little bit of an exercise getting that off, clearing the bumper bar. I also will put seals down around the corner here, and I'm going to run some form of seal between the door and that. I can't mount it on the boot lid because I found out the hard way that when you put a seal on there, it actually fouls the tyre door when you open the boot and try and close it. So the seal actually has to fit on the inside of this tyre door here. But it should seal up reasonably well. I've had a bit of trouble mounting the locking plates and moving those around so I actually can get the door to close in and seal on the rubber seals. But all in all, it should be better than it was originally. The spare tyre fits in there, of course. It also has a bracket. I haven't put the plate back on, but there's a plate that comes in from underneath, and there's a bracket that will actually be put on there and hook over the tyre I'll make that later, probably after I buy the replacement tyres and work out exactly what size bracket I need. I don't have a bracket with the car, but I know roughly what it looks like, so I can make one of those later.